Legibility in web design. What factors come into play when we look at legibility in web design? Well, one that's very unique is what our eyes see. Let me show you this illustration. Even though the words are jumbled, most of us were able to read it. It's similar to another exercise where instead of mixed up words, letters are replaced by numbers, yet we're still able to see and understand the sentence or the paragraph because our mind sees the words. Because of this, it's easier for us to see things that are written in both upper and lower case than something that's placed on the page in all caps. So what other things affect legibility? Well, there's fonts, both the size and color, or background, or line height, the white space on the page. And today we're going to talk specifically about strokes, appenditures and counters, x-height, ascenders and descenders, serif and sans serif fonts. So the first thing we're going to look at is strokes. A stroke is the main portion of the letter form. So the stroke here in this font, the strokes here. We also have healthy strokes, and I guess you could say in the other sense, you have the weaker strokes. Fonts with this type of stroke, if made small, this weaker side may disappear, which will cause us not to be able to see the word clearly. Now, apertures and counters. Apertures are the partially enclosed spaces, as we see here in the N and in the E. And then counters are basically the same thing, but they're in the enclosed spaces. They take up the negative space. Problems that can occur with these is if these fonts are made too small, this type of fonts, and if our counters aren't large, then it's possible that the ink could bleed over into the inner part and close off this part entirely, and again make maybe not only reading difficult, but the visual content of the page would be affected. X-height is the height of the lowercase letter x. A lot of what we do is determined in the x-height. The x-height of a word, so you can see the other letters here being the same height, so this is called, this n would be in an x-height, can make a determination on how the letter appears on the page also. X-height can vary from typeface to typeface, even within the same point size. So say this was a 14-point letter here in this typeface. In a different typeface, a smaller typeface as far as the strokes and so forth, it may only appear this size, even though they are both the same point or pixel size. Now, the x-height makes a difference on what happens in the next thing we're going to talk about. The ascenders and the descenders. The ascenders are the parts that come above this midline, say the top of the X. The descenders are the items that go below the baseline. And these are important because different styles of font, different font faces, have either longer or shorter ascenders and descenders. So if the X height is high and the ascender, say like on an H, is a little more truncated, then it's possible that that letter could be mistaken for an N instead of the H that it is. Finally, we're going to look at serif. I have the serif and the sans serif. Serif fonts are included in this list. Also in the list that, or in the main font that I'm using here, which is a Georgia font. The thing that sets serif fonts aside are the little extra indentations, I guess you could say, the little extra marks at the tops of the letters. One school of thought suggests that this letter here and running across and catching the other serif marks allows people to read the words better, and it flows better throughout the page. The fonts themselves, much like what we discussed in our last unit, that it doesn't really matter. There's no hard and fast rules as to what fonts are best with what type of things. It's just that when they're used, they need to be used appropriately, so that besides the font or the height of the letter, that the spacing is correct in between the letters so that the words look good. Then on the sans serif, as you can see, there's none of the little serifs that yet they're still very easy to read when used in the proper situations. And many books that I've looked at when I'm checking the fonts come out in this Franklin Gothic. So these are just a few points in legibility and web design. If we remember these factors, that strokes, appenditures and counters, x-height, descenders and ascenders, serif and sans serif fonts all have an important effect in how or pages perceived, and we want to choose them carefully and choose them to make them appropriate to what we are putting together.